All right, so moving over now to Brisbane. So best 23 for Brisbane. Obviously big inclusions at Day. So what do you reckon?
Well, he'll slot in, you would think, as that third kind of tall intercepting option. But again, he's one that with an ACL injury is probably not playing until the second half of the year. Mm-hmm. But, even you take him out of the side, do they run with an Andrews, a Payne and a Gardner? Like they obviously had to make that decision for the grand final with Payne injured that Gardner would play ahead of him. They wouldn't play all three. And now it's going to come down to, who are they going to favour next to Harris Andrews next year? Is it going to be Jack Payne, as he was all year long? And I think Gardner only played 4 games this year, but one of them was that grand final, despite Payne being cleared to return. You'd think Gardner probably doesn't start in this side. And then with Day coming in, he probably pushes back even further in the queue because Day probably plays a bit smaller, but would be way too many tools down back to accommodate all 4, and even 3 of them without Day might be a little bit too tall. They've got Ryan Lester as well, who can run a decent job on some of the taller opponents as well. They lose Dan Rich down back, but they get guys like Darcy Wilmot, Katie Coleman, and Connor McKenna, who kind of led the way anyway in Rich's absence this year. Provide some run. Brandon Starshevich is that lockdown defender for some of those smalls. And then they've got, I think decent depth, like Noah Answorth's one that I think would like to get a decent run at some point. And then you got James Madden, Jackson Pryor, Carter Michael, Dara Joyce as these kind of reinforcements. Zane Zakostelski was the draft pickup for them. Probably not going to get a look next year unless, forced by injury. So that's kind of their underlying options and the foundations of their backline depth. And then midfield, class talent kind of across the whole line there. Will Ashcroft's going to feel like a mid-season recruit when he makes his return from an ACL injury. Obviously, you got Lachie Neale leading the way, but Josh Dunkley, Jared Berry, Hugh McCluggage kind of stacks up that midfield nicely. Devon Robertson was a key retention for them. Probably play a bit inside, bit of wing. Zach Bailey, similar. Jasper Fletcher, similar. Cam Rayner, like Bailey, will kind of float up into the middle at times. Charlie Cameron could do the same. Then you got, Utility and Calamachi, who's still probably a best 23 player. Good fit for the sub role, perhaps. They cut Reece Matheson, and that'll probably open the door for guys like Harry Sharp and Jackson Pryor to get more of a look when needed. And then the rucks setup is, pretty straightforward. Big You'll have Big O. Darcy Fort probably isn't in a best 23 with just McInerney, and you might get Danaher or Hipwood kind of pinch hitting in the ruck. Instead of having Fort in that side. And then for the forwards, Danaher, Hipwood, kind of that 1-2 punch. They didn't have Gunston in the side in the second half of the year, and they probably won't have a spot open for Brendan Ryan, who they kind of got from the Hawks. But he'll kind of be that next man up alongside maybe Darcy Ford. Those two will kind of be pressing for that extra forward tall role. Absolutely lethal forward line. Probably the best in the competition when you've got Charlie Cameron, Lincoln McCarthy, Cam Rayner, Zach Bailey. Like Cameron almost booted 60 goals last year, and the other 3 had, I think, almost 25 each. So that's going to be, again, a pretty threatening mix for the opposition. They added a few, key forwards in Logan Morris and Luke Lloyd through the draft. Probably not going to get a look. Mm-hmm. Henry Smith's kind of an interesting one. Been on the list for a while, yet to debut. He signed for a few more years and probably needs some time to develop it. I think they want him up there with Brandon Ryan and kind of pressing to be next in the queue. Shadow Brain and another depth player, but he'll probably be behind the likes of Kyle Lohman and Jasper Fletcher in that forward line, small forward mix. So a bit there. But yeah, you can expect Tom Day to be a starter. Will Ashcroft also comes into that grand final side, and really they don't lose too many from that. Yeah, from that side, if anything,
that is pretty much their grand final side.
Yeah, it's pretty much it's just an improved team from a side that lost the premiership by 4 points. So they're my tip at the moment. But like I said, the 2 guys that they get added to that side aren't coming in until the second half of the year. Yeah, and without a year's worth of footy, it certainly could be a weakness at some point if they're not back, or if they're rushed back, or if there's a bit rusty in those returns. But you'd back both of those 2 in. Duday's done it before, and Ashcroft seems like a pro.
Yep, absolutely. All right, looking good for